Hey, gump goodness. Sorry about last night. I could not do it. My ankle was hurting too much for me to stand, and admittedly, it was hurting so much, I didn't watch the show. So I don't know what happened on Dynamite. I'm going to actually see it when I get a chance. But I did not see the show because my ankle was still pretty messed up. It hurts. Ugh. But let me give you this. What we got here in this gump goodness is an interesting situation that's frustrating, but not also surprising. Because when we talk about corporations or TV networks, it always comes down to one thing: getting the biggest bang for your buck for the most minimal amount of effort. And that minimal amount of effort gives the biggest bang for your buck, which gives them the biggest bucks. That's all they care about. They want to have as much money as possible for the most minimal amount of effort. They don't care as long as they don't have to pay for it and they don't have to add anything to it. Now, when a moose went to the talking shop of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers themselves, he talked about multiple things. He talked about that TNA didn't try to prevent him from doing bookings since they gone to AMC, which is a good thing because that would be stupid. If you don't understand, I'm sure many of you do, if anybody's going to watch this, hi. When a wrestler is working for a company, unless it's WWE, which now they let you do bookings outside as long as it's authorized. And it's particular people, not anyone, particular people, you can do bookings anywhere. AEW does it with Tony Khan. Now, of course, you already know what happened when it came to Nick Nimitz and with MJF. They wanted to do a match on another promotion, and pretty much they were told, no mas, no. Because they didn't want TNA having anything to do with AEW because of WWE. That is the truth. That's the way it goes. They didn't want to upset Daddy. But let's make this very clear. What did we get from Moose? He said this clearly. Since they moved to AMC, it's much more difficult to do their work now. Much more difficult. When they were on Access TV, it was a bit easier for them, from what I understand. And the way Access didn't really confine them too heavily because they were still able to do what they were doing before. From what I understand, yes, they had overruns when it came to the show and they were able to cut down what they need to, and then they would air it on Access TV. Here, no. AMC executives have given them a direct order that any work that needs to be done for matches must be within a certain timeline, must be within a certain amount of minutes. They don't want any editing on the cutting room floor, as they used to say, for Hollywood. Because if you haven't heard, they make movies that could be 10 hours long. And if they want to make an hour and a half movie, they got to slim that down to an hour and a half movie, cutting out the best parts they think will make the movie look good. This is what we're getting with WWE. This is what we're getting with TNA. And with TNA, it's worse. Now, WWE, when it comes to Netflix, they can do a lot more because, well, it's Netflix for Raw. SmackDown, a bit different because they are on another network, as you know. But when it comes to TNA and AMC, the executives are going over there and they're saying, look, these matches, 10 minutes. We don't care what you normally would put in that would be more than 10 minutes. Everything needs to be 10 minutes. The intros, the walk-arounds, the match itself, any segments that means 100%, any segments that happens after the match, that means the match, if it's got to be cut, it's going to be cut. So I'm like, this is where corporate and networks don't get it, and they don't want to get it. And I'm sure you're going to say, dude, they have to go within a certain timeline. It's not about the timeline. There are ways of working around the issue of time. There are ways of doing it. You can advertise the bits that you miss on your YouTube channel. You can ask for an overrun. You can't do that. You just got to do this. But the executives do not want them to do it. Carlos Silva doesn't want to do it because, remember, Carlos may be the president of TNA. He doesn't own it. And the original owner right now, who is from Anthem, don't want to waste no money. He wants as much money as possible. So the product suffers. And from what Moose said, for the younger talent, like a Ricky Sosa, like a Leon Slater, like a Casey Navarro, or BDE, or any one of these guys, it's going to be very difficult for them because they're not used to having such a crunch. Particularly like BDE, he's only been wrestling for less than a year and a half, or no, less than a year, or maybe a year by now. He's only been in the business for maybe about a year or so. And it's going to be very hard. Casey has been working, 11 years? And many others who are there, like Leon Slater, has been working there more than a decade in wrestling since he was, 9? He can eventually figure it out. But, dude, it sucks to see when you crunch everything and people can't get the work done. And this doesn't just count on wrestling. In-ring segments, backstage segments, interviews, vid packs, all of this being condensed so tightly, there is no variation, and worse, there is no creativity. There is a problem with that because it can be heavily restraining to creativity. And that is one of the major things that can mess you up. Now, I'm not saying that both of them, a Tommy Dreamer and a Scott D'Amore, were perfect bookers, perfect creative leaders. No, I'm not saying that. But if they were both restrained heavily by the amount of time they had, we could have had at least some better content. Not great content, better. And now, and I will be doing my, hopefully, I will be doing my TNA review today. If not, I'm really going to try and do it tomorrow. Trying to stay off my leg, try to rest it. But I want to say this. When you watch TNA this time around, look at it very thoroughly because you wonder how much had to be restrained by the executives who were literally in the back telling them, no, 10 minutes. And they're told we need a little bit more than 10. No, do it. We don't want to have anything edited. It's got to be live to tape, 100% from one end to another, no cutting. That's what we want, or as minimal cutting as possible. That sucks. But this is just me, and I hope you enjoyed this gump goodness. Give me a comment below. Peace.